I will make a start at the risk that some people will miss the start. Okay, so we had resource management as a form of planning, but this is where the resource management, or what we normally at company level consider human resource management, yeah, and that is the social side. So, so this is really a very short example. What are competent teams? How they're actually working competently together? What elements should they contain? Should all disciplines be involved? What type of people do we need? And do different levels of team need different disciplines or types of people? So that is basically the question that I want to answer. So I want to actually kind of look at the example of the learning organization, kind of adapted to project environments. Yeah. And you will see that we're not doing so well, even in some of the lead industries in this area. So here, typical examples are aerospace, construction, engineering, biotechnology is other ones. But here we are actually going with aerospace because basically of the case that my colleague gave me with this. So often we have a capacity argument. So in a project as well, we are recruiting for capacity to do our product or service. Yeah, and here you have often functional involvement, so project lifecycle. So in aerospace, those guys have kind of a project inception, so they notice there is a market need for a new product, for example. Or they've realized the chassis that we have is very good, we haven't really optimized it. Why do we put only 300 people in? If we put another level in, we can put 600 in, yeah, something like that. Then you have a project, yeah, and with this, you have as well the consideration. Was this a good project? So you're shaping as well what are legitimate future projects, you know, or what are actually the ground foundations that we are developing here that could work in the future well. Yeah? And here, in our context with capacity, it's who is actually working on it, and are we able to attract their competency, their knowledge, as well for the future in projects, right? If you have one development project and you have very smart people for that, and afterwards you just manufacture the same system again, it's very likely that the smart people run away. Yeah? So this is the issue. Now, okay, in this case, with the plane we have flight physics, which is fine. Here you have systems implications, design implications. They run a lot of models. You kind of design them, you test them in anything. So you basically have a lot of test scenarios that you run them through. You have as well then the manufacturing engineering, setting the line up. In actually Airbus case, it's setting your supply chain up. You have different production and assembly halls all over the world, which adds a completely different level to that. Yeah. So in supply chain, it's something like 26,000 supply chain links that they're looking after. Then you have the procurement and supply chain management itself. Yeah, I hinted that. And then, of course, after the design and structure, you start the production. Now, the production is not necessarily what you think in terms of product life. This means actually they are potentially working on their first prototype plane, right? So you do your first flights with it before you start large-scale manufacturing for clients. And after the first flight, you have as well kind of maintenance kicking in at a company like Airbus, yeah, and you have support and service as well, maintenance and basically checking for durability, qualities, yeah. And here you have maybe entry into service, yeah. So after they have kind of refined their model of doing this. Now here you have a program in a nutshell, yeah, of multiple projects, and you kind of get it, and you even plan for the out of service, yeah. If you're with Boeing, there's a graveyard in Arizona, which is breathtaking. There are millions of outdated planes. If you're a hobby engineer, you go there and build your own plane. A lot of parts are still usable, but I shouldn't say that out loud. But anyway, so you plan basically as well for out of service recycling of high valuable assets within the plane. So some of the systems are actually taken apart and recycled, or have as well material or aggregate value. Now, along with this, you have, of course, the hidden dimensions of product integrity, research and technology, and engineering processes and methods that are kind of kept as learning activities, and as well planning and control, and last but not least, human resources and engineering resource development. So this means as well that your team is actually up to date with the newest technologies. Now, in many projects, empirically speaking, we don't really plan too much for it. We kind of hope that university and education systems give the new generation the new knowledge, which then fights their way in a cultural battle with existing systems, the new systems into the organization. Yeah, and of course this is a dilemma. So let's consider that quickly. Project capability. How are team members chosen? Why do you want a particular person in your team? How did you do it? This is a question for you. What do you think? How do we recruit?
Experience.
Yeah, experience. Yeah, you said as well experience. Skills. Yeah. So more functional. You look what have they done in the past? Can they actually do the job? Yeah, experience goes in the same direction. What have they done before? Or what else?
Specialization.
Yeah, specialization. So particular with a plane. Yeah, they come out of physics itself actually into it. Yeah, but as well. Aerospace design, yeah. What else? Dependability. Okay, now we. How do we assess for that? How can we measure that?
Attendance, reliability.
Okay, so if they turn up for the interview, yeah, this is already a good start. Yeah, he was there in time. Yeah, but otherwise it's difficult, right? We may look at if they have done a previous job and their feedback, but this is already tricky. They often you often ask if you apply for the job to write a CV for the skills, right? So you are already applying against criteria. What else do we do? Who do you want to have in your team? Like if you are picking people, how would you pick them? So we had experience, skills, dependability. Dedicated, yeah, I like that. Yeah, so people that are kind of in it to work with you, yeah. What else?
Good in communication.
Good communicator, yeah, yeah, very good.
Positivity.
Positivity. Now we are talking, yeah. Yeah, you want a lovely team, yeah. So a nice guy, you could feel it's okay to hang out with him, yeah. So I understand that, yeah, and quite rightly. So yeah, in a lot of teams you work 8 to 9 hours a day, yeah. And so there's an implication here. Yeah? Okay, so here's what the Airbus guys actually found. A close friend, someone you admire, good technical skills, good people skills, makes decisions quickly, experienced, female, male. Why? This is a weird one, right? Female, male? What does that mean? Why is this a category? Well, what do you think?
It depends on the concept.
Yeah.
Sometimes female could be an advantage in the group.
Yeah. Well, you're going here already in the right direction. It's a recognition that in some industry, aerospace, if you go to the wing design and the manufacturing, in the past it was a male-dominated industry. It was actually so much so that if you go down to Wales, there's a particular village, they have even their Airbus football team. Yeah? So anyway, but the point there is that if the manufacturing team or the operators that build it had a son, then it would be like, hey son, you will be an Airbus team too. And so if it was a girl, like, oh, maybe not Airbus, you should go out and look for something else. Yeah? So this is a cultural kind of separation, and depending on the industry and project, this still exists. Yeah? And you said the right thing. Yeah. So Boeing, Airbus recognized 10 or 12 years ago that, wait a minute, why do we have here monoculture? Why are there only men? They have shifted this, and they have seen that teams are more accountable and more responsive, and it changes away from the masculinity culture. Yeah, or there are other side effects that come with it. Yeah? So it's a powerful thing to actually consider this. But often you have it. Yeah, so that's maybe another hidden dimension for project manager. Easy to be a boss around. Yeah, so so if the interview is already a smart ass, yeah, in the interview, this is maybe not desirable. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of the opposite. So by the way, this is real findings from the survey, talking to the line managers and project team managers, or they have team leaders. Yeah. And this is kind of what came out from what they described, what they value in their team members. Okay, so this is categorized by the research team. Yeah, but this is actually what was there. Yeah, so be aware of that. Too challenging, too aggressive. This was negative. Not a team player. Too techie. And sad. Well, what does that mean? Techie does.
Like you don't have a systematic view, just like an expert.
Yes.
Focus on one thing only.
Yeah.
Not the whole system.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, so techie is here really a reference. It's, he like the person that already lives in the future of technology rather than in the here and now, and let's work together. Yeah, so there's a trade-off there. And it was interesting that sad came along with that. Yeah, so anyway, so too new to the company. Again, female, male. Yeah, so that was quite interesting. Too senior for available role, yeah, so they really didn't like if you can already kind of say like, oh, this is funny, in the past I would have done it this way. Yeah, that is really where you kind of lost straight away with the managers. And friend of the boss, or wrong family, yeah, that turned out as well particular bad recruitment, yeah. So, so the irony is they had that, yeah, so this is past experience that kind of was lived through. Now, there's a kind of a funny thing, how did they actually pick the ones? So it's an old model, but the kind of this is the actual recruitment. So that eligibility, entry criteria came often down to qualifications. This depends. So some team levels. So when you were a project leader, they often wanted that you have technical experience. So this meant you have an MBQ. And then they really regarded if you had like an academic degree as well, kind of project management or control systems or operation science, something like that. Yeah. So then qualifications would be match 2, and section number 2. So relevant experience, not a priority. Yeah, but this were there. Then references. So good references from other teams, and acceptability at interview. So again, it's what we just discussed. Yeah. So. Then suitability of performance criteria. So what were kind of the topics that came out from the team leaders? It was aptitude. So this was as well like dependable, yeah, and a nice guy to work with, things like that. Versatility. Well, what is that?
Being able to do more than one thing. If you're versatile.
Yeah, so not just one that is stuck in one role, but a team player. So yeah, when the project kind of requires you to learn something new, curious enough to kind of do this for the team, right? And then it's as well assessments. So they have peer assessments, they have kind of hierarchical assessments, and they have an annual progression meeting where they actually get assessed as well if they're progressing against their performance criteria that they have set. Yeah, and then role fit with those adjecting to the job. What does that mean? It's your team members, right? So that they get along, that there's not a crisis straight along, and they had a lot of crisis. So as well in Airbus, they had teams that were there for a lifetime. They had learned in apprenticeship schemes their trades, or they were specialists on particular parts of production. So and some of them were quite strong characters, to say the least. Yeah, and so as well as a new team member, you needed to find a way to communicate and functionally work with those, of course. Yeah. So how are the teams formed and disbanded? Do they join the team when they are available? So again, this is tricky. So. Yeah, they did do, so a lot of the teams were actually allocated by availability of the team members. So if somebody completed a project, they were actually allocated. Respectively, they didn't always have the right skill sets. Are the people you want, or are they the ones that are available? So again, as a project manager, do you have actually a say? Do you actually recruit here your team? Has anybody done that? Has anybody recruited their team before? Yeah? And were you able to kind of get an interview with them before, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was proper recruitment, yeah? How was the team performance? How was the project?
Varied, but it was a good indicator. Mostly of attitude.
Okay. So very proactive attitude and can do. Yeah.
Teamworking abilities, that was the key thing.
Yeah. And did those play out in the project?
Mostly.
Oh, okay. So this went largely right, yeah, but there was some conflict and sometimes teamwork was challenged. Okay. Oh, there's always one. Okay. Yeah. So there's an element of that. You're quite right, actually. Yeah. So how do you get the person you really want, but who is being underused in another role? So those are kind of the trade-offs. Yeah, this is again organizational capacity versus your project capacity. And do you have a formal team launch event? So do you actually have everybody there, or do you get people as you go along? You kind of complain, hey, this is not achievable with the capacity. Oh, we have just him that got out of the project. This is your new team member, yeah, and everybody else had to adjust to them again. And do you invite your customer as well? Does your customer know actually the team and how you're working with them? And do you invite your suppliers? Yeah, so again, quick answers are a lot of them do, yeah, but this is not very common. And how do you find out your suppliers can actually do the job? Yeah, so again, do you assess for that? Do you see and measure actually performance? And do you hang on to good people just in case, even if you don't have a job for them? Yeah? And do you hold a celebration event on disbanding or when you're completing? Yeah? Do you have a ceremony to actually celebrate the great team spirit and the social side of your project? Now, those were the questions, and the quick answer is all these methods. So those were kind of the key themes that came out from the interviews, that those are considerations and conflicting points. And again, those were areas that Airbus kind of worked on. Now, when you come to the project team competencies, there are formal analysis tools that you should be using on project levels. I can tell you now, this is actually research that my colleague Paul Chun and I did. This is from 2008. This is what we found out that my PepsiCo company is not working. So we kind of did something like this. So this is first of all as-is analysis. So this is current recruitment, company level, deployment, project level, then development, individual level. Looking where are people? Do we have the right people for our project teams? So then you should actually analyze the gap analysis. Now, even in PepsiCo International, we didn't do this. So we just put the people in. So we had project teams where a lot of people were not skilled. They didn't know how to use the new technologies. So in reality, they were all leaning like, oh, let's outsource this. Yeah, this is often the natural team response if you're not comfortable with it. What that meant is we had like a huge group of people that were very risk averse and didn't really know how to engage with the task. So the whole point here is that you have to make as well a training plan and of course put in place additional resources that those people can learn and advance kind of what they're doing. Particularly if they are very remote from their host. So if you have a department of this particular unit, then they're probably already having at least informal mechanisms of learning. But if you have just one person in the factory, for example, for an IT system, then this person is very remote from their natural habitat environment to learn and advance with the kind of challenges that the new technologies bring. Now this allows you then to be analysis, how it should be. This is business needs, job analysis, and appraisals, where you can actually work as well with the employees. And if you do this actively, there are as well pay upgradings with it. Yeah? So it means that your project managers may do a formal qualification like an MSc. PepsiCo, we have a lot of internal degrees. It has to do with how PepsiCo is run. But in reality, it's still formal learning mechanisms that you can use as well to get promotions. So it should be aligned. Yeah? And it will basically bridge as well the gap between the project and your career development. Yeah? Okay, having said that, when we did the research and looked how many of companies were doing this, it's largely large supply chain clusters that can afford something like that. So smaller companies don't really engage that frequently with it. Now, are internal team dynamics important? Yeah, this is kind of the Belbin chestnut that I wanted to show you here. But there's another internal dynamics emphasis. It's about leadership and how you actually create your culture. So leaders have as well kind of either subordinates or maybe followers or maybe specialists that they're empowering. Now, depending on that, you have different interactions. So I'm just saying, at the moment it's very colorful and diverse. So if you have a solo lead, this is one example, plays ultimate role, interferes as well, and often expects you to understand what he is thinking, then strives for conformity, collects alkaloids. What does that mean again, alkaloids? What is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, exactly. So conformity, striving. So you want, as a leader, that the other ones guess what you are thinking. Yeah? And teams become very good at this, but you're not looking constructively at new options here anymore. Yeah? Direct subordinates, projects, objectives. And here, team leader is a different game. You chooses to limit role, delegates, builds on diversity, seeks talent, develops colleagues, creates mission. So you get a little bit the idea. This is really kind of the spin from Airbus. So they wanted team leaders. This is as well why the names had changed respectively. So example of aerospace, they have the department. So this is as well where the skills development sits. But they still perform everything in design team and in a project-based delivery system, which means that they come up with a multi-layer matrix. So here you kind of have the operational team units that actually build stuff, and then you have the intersections going up, and in this case it was actually the A380. So it's again the integration management that kind of sits in between. So those are project and design teams looking for quality and system integration. And then here you have as well management and integrated oriented teams. Oh, the colors are not matching. So this is red. I know it doesn't look like that, but that is red. Yeah. And then you have design and build oriented teams. It's kind of okay. I have to apologize for that. Yeah, this is my color blindness. So clearly, yeah. But this is, I mean, this is already simplified. Yeah? If you look at the actual supply chain, this is massive. Yeah? But yeah, this is how they do it. And I have 2 more minutes left. So to be successful for each team, clear set objectives and timescales, a single person accountable for team's deliverables. This is a project manager or team leader, of course, person who takes responsibility for resource issues. So this doesn't mean it has to be the project manager as well. This can sit functionally in departments. Yeah? So if it's of technical nature, you give it to the project manager, then he can run to the technical unit part, but it should as well be aligned risk-wise to the unit that has actually the technical expertise too. Some innovation team members, so people that come in with new ideas, appropriate technical experts, people who are simply workers, so they're committed to getting things done, and probably the majority in their case. Good visibility of their suppliers and customers, so a certain transparency as well. And mutual tolerance and respect. And the last one, oh, no, so there's one more, but okay. So we have as well communication, so they recognize that the IT is important, but again, I don't want to emphasize this. And then what do they teams now need? So high technical skills, this is what they're employing for. Some leadership skills and the right leadership skills. That doesn't mean you are bossy. Yeah, this means you are understanding how to empower your team, because you have experts around you. Then good business understanding, good interpersonal and team working skills, the ability to think innovatively, so as well kind of actively engage in the conversation of how you are thinking about innovating something, so the process. The ability to challenge, speak at least one other modern language, that was another important one, the desire to develop themselves, adaptability, and a sense of humor. Okay. Wonderful finishing line, and we have 8 minutes left. So, any questions? Okay, this was really sprinted through. So there are some notes as well to it if you want to look a little bit deeper into this. But the human side is very important, so don't dismiss it. As a project manager, you are often in the driving seat for that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.